Joining me now is the big man on campus at the American Conservative Union and obviously CPAC, which everybody knows, Matt Schlapp. Matt, you just got back from Iowa. Why were you going to Iowa? Please tell me it was just to make fun of Democrats as they implode on the national stage.
Wow. I don't know if I've ever had a 72 hours of greater joy in my life as watching the Democrats in Iowa. Just so everyone knows, the last poll about the caucuses is put out by the Des Moines Register. And this year it was in association with CNN. And guess what? They had a technical snafu with the poll, Jesse, and they couldn't release it on the Saturday before the caucus. And I was like, well, wait a minute. I'm not very good at math, but if you have a technical anomaly in a poll, you can fix that and still release it. They've never released it. So that makes you think, I wonder what the deal is. I bet Bernie did pretty well in that poll. And then lo and behold, we go right into the caucus and there are no results yet. You have Democrats claiming victory. So I think it's everyone gets a trophy time. Every Democrat gets to win.
All right, we've got a few things to unpack with all this. Let's address what you just said in the beginning. Let's assume they torpedoed the poll because everybody is out to screw Bernie Sanders right now. I mean, every pundit, every writer, every politician. I've never seen the Democrat Party this unified against somebody except for Donald Trump. Why? His positions are the same as every other Democrat. I don't understand. I mean, I realize he's a mean old man and he's dumb enough to say out loud what they're all thinking, but they really genuinely seem terrified of the guy.
What liberals do, I think, in their own party, what Democrats do is analogous to what they do with the black community. They tell the black community what they want to hear. They say they're going to be with them. They run those terrible race baiting commercials about how Republicans want to kill them. But in the end, the black communities, they're not doing very well across this country under this crazy socialist mayors, et cetera. I mean, I've driven to Baltimore. The president actually characterized Baltimore too kindly. And so you look at this and you say, they don't really want to let the African-American community, right, run the party. They don't really want to let Bernie Sanders run the party. They just want all these socialists to come aboard and vote for their candidates. But when it comes to running things, scares the hell out of them. The problem is they can't get the genie back in the bottle, Jesse. The fact is, it is a party now populated at least 50% with socialists. And that's because of their own actions and what comes out of their mouth and what they try to get done in Congress. And they're now losing control of their party. And it's not moderates, it's liberals, crazy, wacky liberals losing control of the Democratic Party to socialists. This is what is going on, and it's something to behold.
Matt, we don't have results, and at this pace, we're not going to have results until I'm in adult diapers, but let's make a couple assumptions off of what we have right now. We know Buttigieg, or whatever his name is, did okay. Warren appears to have done okay. Sanders appears to have done okay. But Joe Biden, I was of the opinion that Joe Biden had to win Iowa. He had the state to himself for weeks because of the impeachment trial. He's the presumptive front runner. I don't find Iowa to be the end-all be-all, but I think it's a big, big deal if Joe Biden didn't perform well there. But you've got the experience. Am I crazy?
No, I agree with you completely. I think Joe Biden's campaign is over. I think it was over months ago. I think that most swamp Democrats and New York Democrats who like to make a lot of money and are a little worried about what Bernie Sanders wants to do with wealth confiscation. Same for Elizabeth Warren with their wealth tax. I think they are a little spooked by the fact that he could get the nomination, so they've been talking it up. But look, Joe Biden is too old. He's too decrepit. He doesn't know how to speak to the modern voter in the Democratic coalition. And Iowa, he's the luckiest man on the face of the earth, or he's the beneficiary of some hanky-panky that the results didn't come out, because what would he have said if he had come in fourth or fifth? I mean, there's nothing good to say, and there would be a lot of motivation for him to drop out. Instead, he can say, hey, we did better than expected. Good night. I guess we don't know exactly. Have my lawyers send some letters. It's off to New Hampshire, where he can try to do something there. But, Jesse, I'm going to make another prediction, just like I did in Iowa. He's not going to win New Hampshire. His campaign is over. It's just about when he exits now.
All right, before we get to the final bit of news, well, what about South Carolina, though? He has to win South Carolina because of his popularity with the black vote of the Democrat Party. If he doesn't win South Carolina, he really is truly done, right?
Yeah, and that's the one durable thing for Joe Biden you got to give him credit for, which is he has kept a very large plurality of the African American support in all of these polls. But what tends to happen by the time you get to the later states is the first two states have already had a big impact on the race because, at least certainly on the Democratic side, but we've seen it on the Republican side too, people want to go with a viable candidate. And if you've lost Iowa and New Hampshire, if he were to get the nomination after losing these first two states, he would be the first man in history to be able to do that. And it's just hard to imagine that happening.
History don't lie. All right, Matt, on a obviously very serious note, Rush Limbaugh. We all saw the news. I've talked about it on the show. He is, look, I grew up with Rush Limbaugh. Gosh, I feel like everybody I know grew up with Rush Limbaugh. He paved the way for so many people in this industry. Can you speak on Rush and just your experience with him at this point?
Yeah, so when I graduated from college in 1990, I opened up a little business for my mother, who had just recently gotten divorced, and my father had died, and she was in some economic turmoil. I opened up a business, and I found out this guy Rush Limbaugh, who was on the dial and on AM, and I started listening to him every day. I always knew by that point I knew I was a conservative, but this man just gave voice to things and said things. Sometimes we were told we shouldn't say, and other times, I learned things from him. And yes, he was entertaining. So everyone always has this question: is he a thinker? Is he an entertainer? He was both, but he never really entertained in a way that was contrary to our conservative values. So I said on Twitter the other day, I view him as the kind of the popular conservative voice of our movement. He spoke to each of us every day. I had that show on. My sisters had that show on every day, 3 hours a day. It started at 11. It ended at 2. And we kept the dial up. If we had a really crazy liberal customer come in, we would sometimes turn down the volume. That is true because I am a capitalist. But I feel like he's a kid. And I got to be interviewed by the Limbaugh Letter and talk to Rush on the phone. And I don't know, that was one of those moments that, that's a hero for me. And I'm sad for him. But I know that just the way he even announced it, he gets it. This is what every human being has to face. You have to face struggles. He's had other struggles. And so I just think we should all pray for him and hope that it's part of God's plan that he gets to stick around a little more because he's enjoying this Trump presidency so much.
Amen. Amen. He's paved the way for a lot of us, and I salute the guy, and I just wanted your thoughts on it. I appreciate him very much. Matt Schlapp, head of the American Conservative Union, I appreciate you joining me today.